Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. Let's talk about money mindsets and money habits as a minimalist and as a person in general. So today I want to share with you how I make sure to spend my money intentionally and how I also make sure to not spend too much money in general, because it is absolutely a goal of mine to be in a good place with money, to have everything I need and to just make sure that I'm covered for any emergencies and for the future. So let's get started with my first important part, which is getting an overview. I think it is so important that you just have an overview over your finances as the first step, as the first thing. And before you can do anything to improve it, I think having an overview is very important. So one step I took during the past year, I actually closed a bank account in Switzerland a few years ago. Then I closed my other bank account in Germany. So now I just have one bank account. It's a sustainable bank account, which makes me happy as well. And they contribute to saving and preserving the rainforest and make sure that none of my money is invested in businesses I really don't believe are sustainable or anything that I want to support. And I have all of my money in this one bank account. I don't mean money that I want to invest. I really want to invest money in the future and save money for retirement, which I would not do in a bank account. This one bank account is the point where all of my money goes through. All of my money that comes into that bank account. I have it as an app on my phone, which is very convenient because I can take a look at it whenever I want. And so that really makes it super easy to have an amazing overview over my finances. So I can always see how much money is in that bank account, how much I spent each month, what I spent this money for, how much went into the bank account, where it's coming from, etc. So I can highly suggest, if it's possible in your life situation, because I totally get that there are a lot of situations where it's not possible or doesn't even make sense to have only one bank account. But for me, it made things so much easier. I love to have this one bank account where everything comes in and goes out of. And then, of course, if you have this overview, you do see where your money usually goes, where your money is usually coming from, if there's more money coming or leaving your bank account. And I think there it's really important to budget to a certain extent, to make sure to assess where you spend the most money, where you earn the most money, where you have areas where you're not happy with how it is currently, and to just make sure that you set up a system that works. And I want to get into that now. So let's first talk about the situation when you buy new things. What do I do there to make sure that I spend my money intentionally and that I don't spend too much money in general? If you didn't know, this year I'm doing a low buy. I can link the video up here for you where I talk all about the rules and how I'm planning on doing that, or I've been doing it for almost 3 months now. But I link you the video up here where I talk about that specifically. But doing a low buy for me means only buying one thing per month roughly, which already helps limit my spending because it makes sure that I don't just buy everything that comes to my mind. So the first thing that I can really suggest is doing a low buy yourself, or a no buy if you want to be really strict or have a lot of debt or something to work yourself out of. Or just get some other kinds of boundaries when it comes to spending. Something that I did in the past that worked really, really well for me is deciding that I can only get one big thing for myself each year. And a big thing, of course, is a bit harder to define. In the past, that was a new camera or a new lens. Once I got a tablet, once I got a new phone, things like that. I limited myself to one thing per year. It did not always work out. Sometimes I had to buy a second thing, but it was especially for the things that were not 100% necessary. So the things that I'd like to have, I limited myself to one thing, because otherwise if I buy 3 bigger things, that can add up to several thousand euros, and I'm not willing to spend that just because I want it, because I think that with my budget is a waste of money. If you want to know exactly how much money I earn and spend, I will link you the video where I talk about exactly that and where I show the full transparency of how much I earn and what I spend it for, so you can get a more in-depth picture of how I actually exactly spend my money. Another thing that I always do is just wait a bit before I buy something. Of course, that's not the case with groceries, but I'm talking here about the things I want to have that are not immediately necessary, that are not consumables or food that we need all the time. But if I want to get a new t-shirt or something like that, I try to just wait a bit. So if it comes to my mind, sometimes I do research it, I do look up what's available, but I'm not gonna buy it right away. You can do that in different ways. You can add it to the cart if you're online shopping and only allow yourself to actually buy something that's in your cart once a week. You can put it down on a list with a date and make sure that you purchase it 30 days later or more. You can you can set your time frame, you can set the system that works best for you. I wasn't always strict. Sometimes I was just like, I'm not going to buy it when it comes to my mind first, but if I'm thinking about it over and over again, so I'm not forgetting about it, I don't have to write it down, because if I'm thinking about it over and over again, that means that it's really important to me and that I want to buy it. And then I would allow myself to buy it. If after months or weeks or thinking about it so much I still wanted to have it, then I would allow myself to buy it. That's another way to make sure that you only buy something if it's really important to you. What I do in general with all of these things is I look for a second-hand version first. Now, the only exception would maybe be underwear, but except for that, most of our furniture is secondhand, most of our kitchen things are secondhand, a huge amount of my clothes is secondhand. So whenever I want something, just to be more sustainable and to save some money, I make sure to check if it's available secondhand somewhere. And usually you can save so much money, and a lot of times the things are in a perfect condition, and so you can just get your cost per wear or cost per use down significantly. And that is the next thing that I want to talk about. I'm all for quality over quantity. And that sometimes means buying something new, buying something more expensive. But I think what we really have to think about if you want to save money in the end is the cost per wear or the cost per use. For a garment, that's of course, if it costs 100 euros and you wear it 100 times, you pay €1 for each time you wear it. So for me, it would never make sense to buy something that is very expensive, maybe designer brand, very chic and special. But since it is so special, I can't really wear it in my everyday life, and then I end up only wearing it 5 times. That's just not worth it for me. And that also means for me that buying something secondhand most of the time makes sense, even if it's not the best quality, if it's not the best brand. But because you pay such a small amount of money, and usually you can use that thing almost as long as if you bought it new, or sometimes even longer because it's an old and good quality item, then it really makes sense for me to buy things secondhand. So I do want to invest in some pieces sometimes, but only if I'm really sure that the money I spend, for example, for a fair fashion piece, that's the case where I do that, means that I can wear that item a lot longer. For t-shirts, that is absolutely the case for me. T-shirts I buy secondhand usually lose their shape, lose their color, and just are not t-shirts I can wear as long as t-shirts that I buy from sustainable brands, for example, that I know the quality is good, the fabric is great, they keep their shape, I can use them for a long time, and there I'm absolutely willing to pay that money, because I also think we have to kind of think about the time we invest in researching a new item once it breaks. So if I have a t-shirt, which always only costs me €1 because I find it secondhand, but I always have to search for that €1 t-shirt, but I have to search for a new €1 t-shirt every 2 months because it always breaks after 2 months, then it's not really worth it for me. So I do buy things secondhand, but only if they're in a good condition, and if I think that I can really get my cost per wear, cost per use down a lot. With kitchen appliances, or especially with like tableware and things like that, it's amazing to buy these secondhand. If they're not broken already, they will be used as long as new ones, and they are so much more inexpensive. And so I love to just buy secondhand furniture and everything else, actually, because usually it saves me a lot of money. And then the third very, very important area, I think, is just the general lifestyle. And with that, I mean, we have to talk a bit about lifestyle inflation and also lifestyle adjustment. Living a minimalist lifestyle for me also means to not have certain things, to not do certain things, to not use certain things, and not pay for certain things. So in reality, I'm gonna share a few things with you that where I adjust my lifestyle because I'm a minimalist, because I'm the person I am, because I prefer it that way, that saves me a lot of money. So what I think is minimalism, a lot of times it's setting priorities. A lot of times, because minimalism is absolutely not about getting rid of things that are important to you or that you need, but minimalism is just giving up things that do not add value to your life. And all that stuff is costing you money because you have to maintain it, because you bought it and you thought you needed it, because you have to declutter it, because you have to move it. So I think making sure that you only use products, physical and digital and mental, that serve you is a great way to save money. So I think it's super important that we declutter our subscriptions on a regular basis. And that's what I do. Like, I assess my lifestyle every now and then to make sure that I'm not spending money on things that I don't want to spend money. If you have a gym membership, if you have public transport tickets you always buy but you never go somewhere with public transport, if you have just all the kinds of memberships you have that you don't use, you can of course declutter and save a lot of money. For a lot of things also we have reusable items. Plastic bags, for example, cost money if you need them in Germany if you don't bring your own bag to the store. Or like paper towels, we just use regular towels and we don't have to buy paper towels all the time. And just there are so many things in the household that we have something that is more sustainable and that is not single use, so we don't have to replace it all the time. Of course, most of the time it's a higher upfront cost, but if you use it over time, it saves money. Another thing is that we don't have a car. Now that is only possible because we live in a city, because we have public transport here, because we don't actually need to go anywhere where we would need a car. So I totally understand if that's not possible for a lot of people, but maybe you can think about the numbers of cars you need. And that I think saves so much money. Here I would pay for parking, I would pay for gas, I would pay for insurance, I would pay for the car itself. And so just not having a car saves me so much money, and I think it also saves me stress, and it doesn't really make my life more inconvenient. But I get that for a lot of people that might be the case, so you might want to keep your car. Another thing that we don't do to save money is eating out. That's just really a lifestyle thing, and that I think is because we just come out of studying. I just finished my studies. My boyfriend is finishing up in like the next few months. So there wasn't that lifestyle inflation that could have happened just because we were pretty young still. But that's just something we do. We don't order food, we don't eat out, which saves us a ton of money because we just always prepare our food at home. Another thing we do is we try to repair our things if they break. So we try to not just throw them away when the first little thing doesn't work anymore, but we try to repair them, to use them longer, to save some money. And that does cost some time, but I still think most of the time it's worth it. Another huge part of like lifestyle spending, I think, is spending on vacation. And as we all know, during the past year, it wasn't really possible to go on vacation. But if we do, and if we did in the past several years, we do make sure that our vacations are pretty inexpensive. So we go camping, we don't go far away, we do cook our own food if we are on vacation and things like that. Now that's how I like it. I like to go into nature and just experience different landscapes. I don't have to do expensive stuff for vacation. I totally get if you have a different opinion and if you choose to do it differently, but that's just something I also do to save money. And I think what's just important to just like close the loop is with all these spending habits, with your lifestyle, it's just important to really keep an overview, to see what you're spending and to see if you have a problem with that, if it's good, if you can afford it. And I think then we would move on again to like the first point of get an overview. And I think that's what I'm trying to do. Like for me, it's important that in the end of the month, I spend less money than I earn. But of course, again, that is just possible for me right now. And I'm super thankful for all of you guys still watching this video that make it possible for me to do that full time at the moment. Let's hope it also works in the future. And so I'm super happy that that works for me. I totally understand if you're in a phase where debt piles up, where it's difficult, where in the end of the month there's no money left, and that is totally understandable as well. I still think at least getting an overview and figuring out ways to maybe get out of debt is a thing that can relieve so much stress and can make life so much easier. But of course, I think the important thing is that you find something that works for you, that adds value, that doesn't cause too much stress. And now I would be really interested in knowing what the things are that you do to make sure that you spend your money intentionally and that you don't spend money for things that you regret later. And I hope you could take something from this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. That would really help my channel. And if you want to see more videos, I link you a video here and a playlist here that you can check out right now if you have time and if you want to. And of course, I also hope to see you next time. Bye!